Have you ever felt like something inside you never left the past? Not a memory exactly, more like a presence, a quiet ache that lingers beneath the surface of everything. You laugh, you work, you keep going, but deep down, something feels unfinished. Like a part of you got left behind somewhere no one ever looked. Sometimes it shows up in silence, other times in the way you flinch at kindness or brace yourself when nothing is wrong. It might have started with a moment, a word that cuts too deep, a hand that crossed a line, or the day someone you trusted disappeared. But it's not just the moment that wounds us. It's the meaning we gave it. It's the loneliness we felt when no one noticed. The way we learn to carry pain in silence. This is where trauma begins. Not always in violence, but in the quiet when our soul whispered help and no one heard. And so we kept living, but something inside didn't. If you've ever felt that invisible weight, that's not a weakness. That's the part of you still waiting to be seen. And maybe, just maybe, this is where we begin. Sometimes, the most painful wounds are the ones no one ever saw, because trauma doesn't always leave bruises. Sometimes, it hides in silence. It lives in the moments when you needed someone to ask if you were okay and no one did. In the way you had to hold back tears, because there was no room for them. In the way you smiled when you were actually breaking. You learned to adapt, to be what the world needs from you. Calm, productive, polite. But inside, something disconnected. A part of you went quiet and never found its voice again. This is how trauma survives. Not in the memory of what happened, but in the emotional silence that followed. When no one made space for your pain, you started believing it didn't matter. And so, you kept moving. You kept achieving, helping others, doing what was expected. You became strong in all the wrong ways. Strong in pretending. Strong in pushing it down. But here's the truth. We rarely say out loud. You can master survival and still forget how to live. You can appear whole and still feel hollow. If you've ever felt that strange emptiness, that quiet sense that something's missing even when everything looks fine, that's not failure. That's the echo of a part of you still waiting to be felt. And healing begins, not with fixing, but with finally listening. And when we don't listen to that hidden pain, it doesn't disappear. It simply learns how to hide. Trauma, when ignored, doesn't dissolve. It descends, sinks beneath the surface of your life and waits. It starts to show up, not as memory, but as a reaction. Sudden anger when someone questions you. Fear when someone gets too close. A quiet panic when you're asked to trust. Carl Jung said, "What you do not bring to consciousness appears in your life as fate." It's not just poetic, it's clinical, it's personal. What we repress, we recreate. Freud saw this too. He knew that the mind doesn't forget what it can't face. It buries it, twists it, and sends it back disguised as anxiety, addiction, or compulsive patterns we don't understand. That's why you keep finding yourself in the same kind of relationship. That's why you sabotage opportunities that feel too good. That's why no matter how much you grow, a part of you still feels small, still afraid, still unseen. Because the pain you silence doesn't go away. It becomes the lens you see the world through. It becomes the voice that whispers, "You're not enough. You'll be left. You'll be hurt." But that voice isn't you. It's the echo of a moment you never got to finish. A part of you frozen in time, still waiting for the safety to feel. And maybe now, for the first time, you're ready to unfreeze. And so we live, not fully awake, but on autopilot, going through the motions, smiling when expected, functioning, but not feeling. You might call it being busy. You might call it just tired, but deep down, you sense it. Something isn't whole. Unhealed trauma doesn't just live in memory. It lives in your habits, in the way you pull away when someone gets too close, in the way you overreact to criticism as if your worth depends on approval, in the way you feel small, even in safe rooms. It whispers in the background, "You're not safe. Don't trust them. Something bad will happen." And so you learn to protect yourself, not with boundaries, but with walls, not with clarity, but with control, not with love, but with distance. These patterns aren't who you are. They're messages, echoes of a younger version of you, still trying to protect you, the only way they know how. That inner child, the one who never felt seen, who had to stay quiet, who learned that love might hurt or leave. They're still there, not broken, just waiting to be heard. So when you notice the same painful patterns repeating the same arguments, the same fears, the same collapse after hope, don't rush to fix it. Listen. Because what if your symptoms aren't signs of failure, but signals of something sacred inside you asking to come home? If you've ever felt like you were being pulled by something deeper than logic, like your reaction came from a place you couldn't name, you're not imagining it. That's the voice of a complex. Carl Jung called them autonomous psychic fragments. But in simpler words, they're emotional subpersonalities, wounded pieces of you, still alive inside, born in the moment of trauma. When your conscious mind couldn't handle the pain, the psyche protected itself by breaking off the unbearable and hiding it in the dark. But what's hidden doesn't disappear. It waits, it watches, and one day, it starts to speak through your behaviors, your fears, your relationships. That's why you lash out over small things. That's why you freeze when someone gets close. That's why you keep dating the same kind of person over and over again. It's not weakness. It's not self-sabotage. It's a complex trying to complete the story it never got to finish. These subpersonalities carry the same emotions they had when they were created: shame, fear, abandonment, rage, and until they are brought into the light, they will hijack the present in the name of the past. You think you're in control, but sometimes it's the child inside you still waiting to be chosen, still waiting to feel safe. So the question isn't just, why am I like this? The question is, what part of me is still hurting and trying to speak? Because when we stop fighting our patterns and start understanding the pain beneath them, everything begins to change. And this is where it all begins to make sense. Because trauma doesn't just leave you wounded. It divides you. The part of you that kept moving forward grew up, took on roles, became strong, and the part of you that stayed behind where the wound first opened, still waiting to be seen. Carl Jung called it individuation, the soul's path toward becoming whole. Not perfect, not polished, but whole. To walk that path, you must bring all the pieces of yourself back together. Not just the confident ones, but the afraid, angry, ashamed ones too. But when trauma isn't faced, that path is interrupted. You grow older, but inside, you're still reacting like the child who wasn't heard, still negotiating for love, still bracing for rejection. And so, you build a life, you build a self, but it's built around the pain, not beyond it. The wound becomes the blueprint, and the version of you the world sees is not your fullness. It's your protection. But what if healing isn't about fixing what's broken, but reconnecting with what got lost? What if the part of you you've been avoiding holds the key to your wholeness? This is the journey back, not back to who you were, but back to who you were meant to become before the world taught you to hide. So why does it keep coming back? Why, after all this time, does the pain still whisper, still shape your choices, still shadow your joy? Because trauma doesn't disappear when ignored. It only learns how to adapt, how to camouflage. And in today's world, it's easier than ever to stay distracted. We bury ourselves in work, scroll through feeds we don't even care about, pour a drink, say a prayer, read one more self-help quote, and call it growth. But often, it's not healing. It's a spiritual bypass. It's numbing, dressed as insight. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists, not out of cruelty, but because the psyche refuses to let you abandon yourself." Repressed trauma doesn't just sit quietly in a corner. It becomes your lens, the way you see love, the way you see failure, the way you see yourself. And through that lens, life starts to feel smaller, heavier, less safe. You begin to avoid not just people, but possibility. You avoid truth. You avoid your own reflection. But the truth is this: every time you run from your pain, you deepen the story that you are not ready, that your wounds are too much, that your healing must wait. And so the pattern repeats until you stop and turn around and face the one thing you've been avoiding all along: yourself. You can only outrun the pain for so long. Eventually, it finds you, not to punish you, but to wake you. Freud understood this well. He saw that what we repress doesn't vanish. It resurfaces as anxiety, obsessions, depression, as the mind's cry for relief from the weight it's been carrying alone. And Jung, he saw something even deeper. He called it synchronicity, when the world outside mirrors what's been buried within. You lose the same kind of person. Again, you hear the same painful phrase from a different mouth. You get close to joy and pull away. Every time. It's not a coincidence. It's your unconscious, trying to speak, trying to show you this is still here. This still hurts, and it's not going away until you stop pretending it never happened. True healing begins not when you push the pain away, but when you invite it in. When you stop fearing your shadow and start listening to what it has to say. Because pain that is faced transforms. pain that is denied repeats. And the more you turn away from it, the louder it becomes, not because you are weak, but because a deeper part of you knows it's time to return, to feel, to witness, to finally become whole. So if pain must be faced, how do we begin? Not with force, not with perfection, but with presence. Healing isn't a breakthrough moment. It's a quiet, consistent choice to turn toward yourself. And for that, you need tools, not to fix you, but to help you hear you. Radical observation. Start here. Notice what unsettles you. Track the moments you overreact, shut down, or shrink. Those aren't random, they're breadcrumbs, leading you back to what was never healed. Therapeutic journaling. Write like no one's watching. Say what was never said. Tell your story, not the polished version, but the raw one. Because when you put pain into words, you give it shape, and the soul can finally breathe. Active imagination. Jung's gift to those who listen in silence. Close your eyes. See the shape of your pain. Is it a child? A shadow? A storm? Speak with it. Ask it what it needs. Let it show you what logic cannot. Dream analysis. Your unconscious speaks in symbols. Track your dreams. Look at the recurring faces, landscapes, fears. They're not meaningless. They're messages, wrapped in metaphor, therapy. You don't have to walk this alone. A trained guide, especially Jungian or psychoanalytic, can help you hold what once felt unbearable. Not to heal you, but to walk beside you as you remember how. Symbolic rituals. Write letters you'll never send. Burn the words that once held you back. Draw the pain and release it through fire, water, or movement. Give your healing a form the body can understand, and the body must be included. Trauma doesn't just live in memory. It lives in the breath that won't go deep, in the jaw that clenches, in the shoulders that never relax. So breathe, move, walk slowly, dance without reason. Let your body remember that it is no longer in danger. These are not just exercises. They are invitations to return to yourself. To become whole again, not by escaping your pain, but by walking straight through it. Healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to forget. It's not about perfection. It's about wholeness, welcoming every part of you, even the ones you once tried to silence. Your trauma is not your identity. It's not your truth. It's a chapter, not the story. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to do with what happened. That choice. To feel instead of flee. To listen instead of numb. To reclaim instead of repeat. That's where freedom begins. Because in the end, healing is not a destination. It's a return, a quiet homecoming to the self you buried beneath all the survival. So breathe, not to escape, but to arrive. You're not here to be flawless. You're here to be whole. If you're ready to move on, join me in the next video, where we'll explore more deeply the shadow and how Jung believed it held the key to your wholeness. Healing doesn't stop here. This is just the beginning.